over to you, Tom, for your case study.
Brilliant. Thank you, Henry, and thank you for putting the time aside today. So just going to jump straight into it. So what's the problem? So new starters are frustrated that the current onboarding process, as it takes too long, and they are unable to add value to the business quickly. So I'm just going to pause there and just let you think about that, and we'll pick that question up in a few slides. So, bit of context. I've gone through this myself. So over the past 2 years, I've started 4 product roles within 3 different markets within the same business, which is listed on the FTSE 100. And I think going into it, I expect a little bit more, really on hands onboarding and getting up to speed. And I think it impacts on 2 levels. I think the employee, you're coming into a new business, you want to be really enthusiastic and add value. And from my experience, that's not the case. And the employer, someone's paying the wages for this individual, and there's no real return investment here. And I think remote working, it's affected everyone to some extent. It's been quite interesting. You're not sat in the office thinking about, can I go into that meeting? Can I ask this person that question? And I've pulled a few stats here from the Harvard Business Review. And it typically takes 8 months for a new hire to get up to speed as quick as possible. And only 28% of companies feel they have a highly successful onboarding program. So this is my experience. And I just wanted to test if this was a real problem out there in the market. So what am I trying to do? I'm trying to look at, is there a problem out there around onboarding, around new starters, and is it an acute problem for those? Particularly in customer-facing roles, because I feel there's a higher expectation that you need to know the market, the customers a little bit more. So what did I do? I held some interviews with 5 different people across 4 different markets in 3 different roles. So quite a range of individuals there. Reached out, personal network, professional network, social media. Facebook wasn't as effective as Instagram. And this really brought out some key themes, mainly key frustrations that I felt and the guys felt as well that I spoke to. Overall, everyone I spoke to had a poor to average onboarding, and there's a correlation here between job satisfaction and onboarding process. They say you can't buy first impression, and this did stem through the few months when they were there. The key points that were pulled out from those conversations, the information overload. One person I spoke to said it's like drinking out of a fire hose. There's no central location that they can go to. There's general documents, but not real relevant documents to their role. And contacts, who did they speak to? They may be aware of those in their team, but maybe not people in the wider business. And again, it goes to that motivation that they feel they're not adding value immediately and are not making that first impression. And in terms of a visual representation of this is a framework that I use. So on the left-hand side, it may be a little bit small on your screen there, Henry. On the left, these are the 5 customer calls. So there's 5 or 6 really punchy questions, understanding, is there a problem? How acute is it? And have they tried to tackle it themselves? And interestingly, new starters feel they can't really question the onboarding process because they're new. And from our perspective, we find this quite frustrating across the board. So looking at the customer calls, there was key frustrations pulling out that I mentioned in terms of, they overload, they don't know where to go, they don't know who to speak to, not adding value, outdated content, etc. And what's great about this framework is we're able to turn these frustrations into opportunities, which help us shape an MVO, which I'll move on to on this slide. And this is all around, we enable new starters to make an impact in their first week, emphasis on the first week, by providing a single source of truth for onboarding. So as I mentioned, there's an outreach campaign that went out, 17% was quite high. I was quite surprised around that. And in order to do this, the learning here was to really target the niche with a compelling offer, which enables not only the conversion, but the engagement and conversation that I would have with them. In terms of the Blue Ocean strategy, this is a framework where we're able to run a competitor analysis. And two key themes came out, which is clear in the MVO, the speed and the value added. And this is a unique differentiator that we are able to identify. And this is a space we're looking to play in. And a product story canvas. So this maps out the details of the transformation. So what's the current state of the new starter and what would they like to achieve if we were to offer a solution to bypass that. And again, I'll just map out these activities in a little bit more detail. So on the left here, again, it might be too small on the screen. I had a look at my initial, hypothesis, and having conversations with the customers or the user spoke to, it really validated that there was an issue there. Making that impact in the first week, not having that single source of truth for onboarding. And we also sent out a survey, and there's some really interesting comments coming back, which again validated what we were thinking initially. We had a landing page, so driving people to the landing page, and I think the conversion rate here, people sign up, people really felt this was something challenging. And the blue ocean strategy. So this was all around like looking at features from competitors and identifying this top band here. We're able to play in, again, going back to that speed and adding that value to adding value quickly. And this is something competitors are not doing in the space. And the product story canvas, again, really outlining the journey, the transformation, and how we could potentially help them. So what came out of this? What's the purpose of running these templates and tasks? A really thought out, really refined and engaging product vision. So we enable new starters to add value in their first week. I think at this point, we're not really concerned the how, but this is all around, what is it we offer? And I think the intrigue here being quite small, like streamlined, it really got users engaged. And you can see this with the stats on the landing page. You've got 38% of visitors joining the beta waiting list, which again, I thought is delightfully high. It's quite high if you look at marketing statistics. And we wanted to test out a web application and validate, is it valuable for our target market and also feasible? So in terms of converting customers, I think this is one of the hardest things that any professional can do. But as long as you have that clear path to transformation on the landing page, then that's where the conversion comes through. The lean canvas. So this is deconstructing the idea end to end and just mapping out the key assumptions. And this is where we begin to solutionize, really thinking about the idea and how we can deliver the transformation. And the customer journey map, this is where like emotions come in, and we can really think about the journey from a customer experience and identify the areas of delight and those areas where we can really add value. And again, just to add a little bit more color to the process, this is what it looks like in practice. So here you've got the customer journey map. So what is the first interaction? So in our case, someone's joined a new business and they're thinking, how do I get up to speed quickly? And at this stage, I feel quite frustrated. And then if there's a solution, which what we're proposing, it would give them more and more delight until they feel they're adding real value. So the lean canvas, moving on to the next section, is stripping back all that noise and really focusing on the value and end-to-end process. And here, this is where the lightning fast onboarding came to light. I just thought I put a screenshot around the landing page. I think some great learnings here is have this really clear, and it's just, this is a sense check of the problem. It's been validated, and it's continuously having that customer conversation, customer interaction, and just sense checking the core value. So in order to further validate the core value, and again, touching on the lightning fast onboarding, we just want to make sure that customer conversation is ongoing. So throughout the process, connecting, testing, talking with 2 to 3 customers per week. And again, as I keep reiterating, that conversation is vital. But what's really, really important is the negative feedback really helps us fast track the iterations and ensure the core value was coming through. And that's also linked to the product market fit engine, the process of build, measure, learn, and continuous iteration, which also allows us to, zoom out, what is going on, who we're talking to, and who we're concerned with, and then really zooming in to how we can offer that. In order to test this, I think at this stage it's all quite hypothetical. We're building a no-code prototype, so the user has a look and feel of what that potential solution would look like. It really gets that insight and those conversations going. And I think for me, it's having that excitement of the users say, "Oh, Tom, this is great. This will really help me going forward." So the next slide just brings that to life a little bit. So we obviously spoke about the problem, validating it on the way, and then really bringing this in to say, this is the solution. Tell us what you think. And I think for me, the major challenge here was the user wasn't actually the customer. So I think I had to be really focused here and just had a disclaimer to say, from this journey, there'd be an element of an admin entering the information or the tasks and the contacts here. So to quickly run you through this. So there'd be a drop-down list where you'd be able to select the individual. So for example, if I'm Alice West, I'd select my name and continue to the next stage. Here there'd be pre-populated contact details, job roles, etc., which would then progress you onto various different tasks. And here's a toggle. So once you've watched the video, you've understood the key outcomes, you'll be able to progress to the next stage. And that's meet with the team, as I mentioned at the start of the call. Some people felt lost, they don't know who to speak to if they were not included within their immediate team. And this is a calendar invite, which will be linked up from the admin into the Outlook, the Outlook noise itself, and be able to book a one-to-one in. So this is what the first iteration looks like. But then we need to look at, what does the roadmap look like? What does it look like going forward? And this is where we bring in a strategic roadmap to ensure that we've got the core value and what we're building is feasible. And this is a great way of bringing in all stakeholders and really fostering that innovative culture and buying in around the solution. Running workshops, I'll go into the visuals, how that's on the next slide, but think of the different solutions, but also focus on the core value and identifying risk and feasibility across the team. And then you look at the impact and effort. If we're looking at one particular item going forward, how does that look in terms of how much impact would that make to the customer? And again, we've got some KPIs coming up. We can't track what we can't measure. So here's a roadmap, as I mentioned. So you've got a workshop, and this is all around thinking of various different items which will be brought in, then converted onto the impact and effort. Then if we look at the roadmap going forward, the first point is integrating with and pulling in data from existing products. As I mentioned on the last slide, you remember the videos, and the KPI is, just making sure that people are actually going onto these. Then you're looking at calendar integrations, analytics, etc. So this is where we are at the minute. I just wanted to just reiterate that question. Is this something that you resonate with in yours, and we can get that to the end? Just sort of remind you of that question. So in terms of my core principles, and what I've brought to this piece is iterate. Customer conversations are essential into everything I do as a product manager. And I want to move away from that feature factory. We as a product team are not a feature team. We want to remain a commercially focused product team and ensure we remain focused on the value and delighting those customers. And we need to always focus on that problem and, solutionize when that time is right. And I followed a process for this. So it's understand what we're trying to achieve, dig deeper and understand the problem. Then we can have a think around, how can we solve this problem? Then validate a really compelling offer. How can we hook a user in and show them this can be done with a realistic prototype And then we iterate again and again and again. And at this point, we only invest once his strategy and core value has been determined. I just want to finish with a profile statement. So I'm an aspiring product leader, passionate about delivering world-class solutions through transforming genuine frustrations into desired outcomes. My obsession with the customer problem and customer-centric approach have proven a strong track record of delivering results.
Good, nice. Excellent. Let's go through some just really specific feedback on the case study, and then we'll talk about some general points. And you came in 10 seconds under time. Good. So if you want to go back to the problem slide, and just as I go through these points, just skip through to the relevant slide. Good. So that problem statement was good, nice and clear. I was a bit worried. I was like, oh no, there's no sort of story here. But then you came straight in with those why bullet points. You know, why has this problem come up? You back that up with some nice stats as well. So that was really good context given at the beginning. If you go to the next slide. Yeah, again, very clear. I like that you added this learning section as well. I thought it was helpful to give a bit of context. And it's also something that comes to you later. It also, you're selling the process, sort of product-driven process, right? You're showing that we're learning things by doing things like discovery calls, by doing things like a blue ocean. So yeah, great including that. On the discovery calls, just next slide. I thought this is very well explained. You walked through it. Good insights as well. Like one comment that stuck with me, that starters can't question this because they're new. They can't question the onboard. It's a great insight to have. These are the kind of things that sometimes just, you know, that one thing might drive the whole vision of what you do. So I thought it was great to see you really getting in the mindset of the customer there. If you go to objective 2, you bridge really well. So what I call bridging is going from one side to the next side. It's clear why that's there. So, you know, you talked about discovery, and then that led us to the following minimal viable offer. We enabled it, and you start, and then you explain what it is, why that's important. The offer on that as well, I thought the offer was probably the strongest of the cohort. Actually, it felt the most compelling, super concrete. I know we did a lot of work on it. It's very concrete and very simple to understand, and I suspect that's why. And it's an acute problem that's getting more and more acute, right? As teams go remote, and there are some issues with remote. And that's reflected with the high sign-up conversion. And I liked again the storytelling here around you talk really clearly about the blue ocean and these drivers. And there was a really nice quote. Sorry, where is it? Yeah, this is the space we're looking to play in. So you're showing, you know, here's these different, and that's where we're going to really focus our time. So I thought that was very good. Just on to the next slide. One little tiny thing, but a nice little hack. Don't make something a negative. So you go, oh, maybe these are too small. Okay. Instead, you could go, look, here's an overview of some of the frameworks we were using. Mm-hmm. So you don't have to make it sound like a negative thing, or just put one on each slide. Yeah, you can do it simple as that as well. Vision, very strong. OKR 3, again, the stats are super high. I mean, easily the highest on the cohort. And that comes from good targeting, you know, market, acquisition channel, but also the compellingness of the offer, how compelling it was. CJ, the customer journey map was good. You stayed pretty high level, as did you with the landing page. It was clear what it is, why you're talking about it. Talked about that sort of sense check. Right, check in that we're moving in the right direction. And then final point, negative feedback. I love that you mentioned that, because it's, again, you're showing the value of the process, right? You to stakeholders going, hey, look, you're basically implying if we didn't do all this stuff, we would have built that first thing, and that would have been wrong, right? That would have been a mistake. So by showing your learnings, you're really hammering home, hey, we should be doing more of this stuff, right? The product discovery, testing.
Yeah.
Good. Yeah, and general feedback, Tom, I think, just really solid over the 8 weeks, like no complaints at all. I think you got on with everything well. I think it's particularly hard when you don't have skin in the game yourself. the company's paying for it and it's just sort of like an add-on, then it's great to see you stuck with it, which is great, because I see a lot of people drop off actually when the company pays. And you had a holiday as well, you caught up, no problem. Same as Chloe, actually, same thing, a week off, caught up, absolutely no problem. I think one thing I thought was interesting is because you've got natural like leadership, like very personable. I can imagine you're very good sort of negotiating things with team and stakeholder. With the presentation, you went into like quite a formal mode.
Yeah,
you sort of lost your usual, because I think part of presenting is changing the rhythm.
Yeah, to be fair, it actually came up last week. I was on a call and someone said you need to smile more, and I think some people I speak to, it's a positive in that I can switch from Tom to corporate Tom and back, because I think especially when you're working within a corporate organization, you also need to have that authority and not be viewed as a joke. So I think
for sure,
I think for me it's like contact.
It's a balance though. So I agree. And I think, for example, it was very clear. Your points were very clear. The wording used was very clear. Just there are times when you want to. It's not about being like fun and jokey as well. It's just like a key point, like bring some depth to your voice at times. Other times it is a good time. If you're talking about learning as well, it should be with that sort of curious tone. You're sort of reflecting. So it's really about just changing. Each section should have its own emotion, essentially.
That makes sense.
We talked about the hero's journey. There's the bit where you're talking about the negative state you were in, like that. If you're talking about how you got fired or you hated your job, you should sound sad.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's simple. I think that's the thing to take away. It's good to be formal and clear, but sections should vary, right? Like like I think of like a score for music. It changes at different points, or a song. Generally good though. Small thing I'm picking up on. I think the second thing, your storytelling was very good with this. And I think generally as well, the way you explain things is engaging. That's not now, just over the 8 weeks as well. And I think final thing, I think the only thing to focus on, it, which is natural at this stage, is, and this will come with time, is just pushing yourself on the strategic side of things. So there was, we don't delve into this in too much detail, but when we talked about the strategic roadmap, I thought there were interesting things longer term to look into about, say you're pulling in, for example, all these different people from the company when you're booking a call. So there's a natural platform to then look at, okay, how could you become a bit of a hub for HR, bring in, if you're creating, all the employees, like what else could we do with that? How might we use that as a launch pad for other products? How might we become further down the line the dominant player in HR? So again, that's not something we do in the program, but just I think we started that with the strategic roadmap, and a lot of the stuff we're doing, the blue ocean differentiation. And the next stage for you is, okay, how do we piece that together in a more, even better strategic long-term roadmap with different products moving at different times, different teams working on different products at the same time as well. A more complex version of that. And and things like revenue. In this case, I think it's probably a pretty straightforward one. You do a subscription model, that's a norm. But delving into that, you're going to be expected to dig into the details, give a good projection of profit and loss, and financial projections over time, these kind of things. So just sort of upping the strategy and the revenue business side of things as well. But again, these are all long-term things. But apart from that, I thought the case study is really strong. So I think great work with it. And actually, it's the kind of thing you should really keep building. There's a definite opportunity there. Don't have to do it as a business, but there's something there that's worth pursuing that I think will be good fun to carry on working on.
Yeah, and I think one of the first videos was thinking about your career path and development and where to see yourself. And I think sometimes you get caught up in the corporate world and deadlines and sprints and that kind of thing. I think it's made me to take a step back and think, what is it I want and where do I want to go? And I was chatting to someone over a beer, actually, funny enough. And they said, if you look around your business and you look who's around you, you need to work out if you want to be like them in 5-10 years time. And I think that's a really strong statement that sort of rung true. So that's, again, it's always quite difficult because, you know, working paid for this, and this is like looking at brand new products is thinking around, you know, what can I bring to a different market. So yeah, there's a lot to think about in terms of my own career development. But I think if there's obviously a lot of value I've got from this, but if there's one thing, it's definitely setting aside a time for that, like, development and pushing myself forward.
Exactly. Yeah, and it could be anything, right? You know, you could really delve into no coding, and then January, you know, start strategy might be a really good topic to read more into this kind of thing. Yeah, I mean, great. It's, you know, keep working your own stuff, and you know, you know, some places you just outgrow, you know, business, for example, and you might find that, and that's a, you know, good thing at some point as well. But yeah, so I think just keep that time aside, working on it. Good. Well, look, congrats as well. I'm going to send you your certificate right now on Slack so you can get posting. And yeah, honestly, great work. I think great having you in the program. You coming to meet up next week in London? Or?
So I did see it, and I've actually got like a meal booked in already, which is a shame.
Yeah, no worries. I'm expecting half the people to be out of action.
Yeah, and I thanks from my side. You know, it's really interesting because this is a product in and of itself, and it's really great to see that, you know, where you've come with this. So I've been really impressed,
Nice.
Especially when I'm looking at the training that I've done in the past. It's, you get an email, you miss a deadline, you watch a video, try and finish the quiz as quick as possible. But this is a fantastic way of really pushing and getting there. So, you know, hats off to yourself. You're doing a great job.
Cheers. No, it's great to hear. Anyone you think could benefit as well? We're always looking for more students. So feel free to invite. No, it's good to hear. It's encouraging to know we're sort of doing the right thing.
Yeah. I think the only thing I struggled with is a full-time job and this on top. But again, I think that's part.
To be honest, it's unavoidable. It always comes up, and it's just, we've just got to do it. Otherwise,
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, but no, it's a completely valid point. It's a completely valid point.
But it's not a negative, because I think for me, it's pushed me to work ends weeknights, but also smarter. You know, I could work 14-hour days, but that's not going to help anyone. It's just thinking, how can I get the most out of it in the time I've got? So
yeah, no, that's good. These are all these key things that you're learning, which is great. Awesome. I've got to hop off for another case study, but yeah, thanks, Tom. No, great to get that feedback, and as a great work. You just keep moving as you're doing. Yeah, you're going to be fine. Yeah, nice one. Well, hopefully we'll see you at an in-person meetup soon. Otherwise, any questions, we're on Slack as well.
Brilliant. Cheers, Henry.
Cheers. Have a good one.
See you later.
Bye-bye.